Welcome to The Explainer. You've probably heard the term corporate social responsibility, right? Or maybe just CSR. But what is it really? Is it just some PR fluff, a buzzword that companies throw around? Or is it something much, much bigger? Well, that's what we're going to dig into today, what it actually means for these big companies and, for all of us.
So let's just get right to the heart of it. The whole idea of CSR really comes down to one big question. Is the company's only job to make money? I mean, is that it? Or do they owe something more to the world, to the society they operate in? That's really the core conflict we're going to unpack.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look beyond the bottom line. Then, we'll get a solid definition of what corporate responsibility even is. After that, we'll check out the global playbook, see it in action, and finally, talk about the real-world impact of all this. All right, let's jump right into our first section, beyond the bottom line. This is all about this growing idea that for a business today, success isn't just about the profit numbers. It's got to be about more than that.
The idea here is pretty straightforward. Think about it. When a company gets huge, really big, their influence just explodes. They're not just a local shop anymore. Suddenly, how they treat the environment, their own workers, the communities they're in, all of that starts to matter just as much as their profit margin. It's like just making money isn't good enough anymore. You've got to be responsible too.
Okay, so we're talking about this great responsibility. But what does that actually mean in practice? Let's try and pin down a real definition.
This definition from the European Union is actually a great place to start. And there are two words here that are super important: integrate and voluntary. This is key because it's not about a company just writing a check once a year for a charity. No, it's about weaving these social and environmental concerns right into the DNA of the business, how it operates day in and day out.
And, this quote, it just nails it. With great power comes great responsibility. It perfectly sums up the whole idea. When a company becomes this massive economic force, well, that power comes with strings attached. It brings a huge responsibility to do the right thing and think about its footprint on the world.
Okay, but think about this. If you're a global company operating in dozens of different countries, how do you do this consistently? How do you act responsibly everywhere? Well, you need a shared rule book, right? A kind of global playbook to make sure everyone's on the same page. It makes sense. In this super connected world, you gotta have some common ground. These international standards give everyone a shared language, a common set of rules for what being responsible even looks like. So a company in, say, Brazil is playing by the same basic rules as one in Germany.
And to make this less, abstract, standards like ISO 26000 are a huge help. It basically takes this giant fuzzy idea of social responsibility and breaks it down into 7 clear categories. You've got things like human rights, labor practices, the environment. It gives companies a real practical roadmap to follow. And if we zoom out even more, you get to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. Honestly, the best way to think about these is as a giant to-do list for the entire planet. It's this urgent call for everybody, governments, companies, you, me, to team up and solve the biggest problems we face. We're talking about everything from poverty to climate change. Okay, so frameworks and goals are one thing. But what does this actually look like when the rubber hits the road? Let's talk about responsibility in action.
This is pretty cool because it shows you there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Take a look. You've got ITC, and they're really focused on sustainable livelihoods and water. Then you have Infosys, and their big things are education and gender equality. And Tata Motors, they're all about health and job training. See? Each company kind of picks its battles, focusing on what makes the most sense for them and their communities.
And it's important to know this stuff isn't just random. Companies follow a pretty logical process. First, they figure out where they stand. That's the assess part. Then they come up with a game plan, strategize. After that, they actually do it with real targets. That's implement. And finally, and this is crucial, they report on how they did and get feedback to do better next time. It's a cycle. All right, so after all that planning and implementing, what's the actual result? What's the real impact of CSR? Let's get into that.
Just to give you a sense of the scale here, check out this number. In 2019 alone, Americans gave $450 billion to charity. Now, a lot of that is individuals, for sure, but corporations kicked in over $21 billion of that. That's not small change. It shows there's some serious money being put behind these ideas.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. The ultimate goal, the real point of modern CSR isn't just about charity or some side project. It's about fundamentally changing the business. It's about baking these social and environmental issues right into the company's core strategy, how it manages risk, and how it measures success. They become totally inseparable from the business itself. So let me leave you with this to think about. As you go about your week, whether you're buying something or at your job, just look around. Which companies do you see really putting these ideas into action? And which ones maybe have some room to improve? It's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us.